What's up, y'all? You're now listening to the What Now podcast. I'm Dr. Spencer Dupre, owner of Empower Chiropractic.
And I am Dr. Zach Thompson, owner of Within Chiropractic. The purpose of this podcast is to document and share the experiences of two young business owners as we open our own brick and mortar chiropractic practices. Join along as we discuss all of our wins, our losses, insights, and the many, many lessons we learned.
As a disclaimer, none of this is ever intended to be medical, legal, or financial advice. What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. I'm Dr. Spencer Dupre with my co-host, Dr. Zach Thompson, and we have a special guest for you guys today. Today we have Coach Danielle Bakic, and Danielle is the author of My Swim Adventure and owner of Swimming Fishies. Right, that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Swimming Fishies Swim School. And a little bit of background on her. Coach Danielle Bakic, a professional swim instructor for 16 years, has taught thousands of children to swim. She is passionate about teaching survival as well as proper technique and strokes. Danielle is firm yet fun and specializes in helping children who are terrified of the water. By boosting their confidence and building in their trust in her, she helps them overcome their fears. Danielle provides a private lesson so children receive the attention that they need, and 99% of her students learn to swim across the pool in just 9 lessons. So welcome onto our show. It's super exciting to have you here.
Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Well, so we just wanted to have you on the podcast because we like to bring in other people who are small business owners, and everybody, like we were talking about before we started recording, has that what now moment. You know, like, what do I do now? I have this vision and I have an idea and I feel like this is a good business idea. And so what now? What do I do now? And so why don't you get into telling us a little bit about your business and about what you do and really your why behind why you started Swimming Fishies?
Yeah, so I was a competitive swimmer for 13 years, and I started coaching at 18, at a huge swim team, and then from there, private lessons, and I absolutely loved doing that. Did not realize I was going to make it a career, but I just happened to do that. And so the reason why is part of why I started coaching is when I was 17 years old, we went to the ocean as a family, and my mom is not a strong swimmer. And she was swimming on my dad's back all the way in the deep end. And then my dad left her and swam far to go see my brothers and sisters. And my mom started panicking and she started sinking and bouncing from the bottom of the ocean floor up, screaming help. And I swam as fast as I could to get to my mom. And then she started pulling me under. So we were both like sinking. And I said, "Mom, get on my back." So she got on my back and I did breaststroke and I saved both of our lives that day. So that helped me to really realize like this is a really important life skill that everybody should know how to do, especially children. It is the number one death in children ages 1 to 14. So my heart and passion and goal is to literally eradicate drownings in the DFW area. That's why I published 2 books so that I can help train kids to swim all over the world, not just in my zip code.
That is surreal. That's like super, super cool.
Thank you.
Not to like interrupt, but my parents have a similar story where my dad didn't grow up, he grew up in Southern California. So he was at the beach, but he didn't really know how to swim. And my mom was also a competitive swimmer and I think they were in the Colorado River. Mom, Dad, if you're listening, I'm sorry if I don't get this right. But, my dad just caught the current and my mom had to save him. Wow. And it was just like a life-changing moment for her because she realized not everyone knows how to swim. She's not a swim coach, but so what you're doing is super, super like profound and awesome.
Thank you. I just have a heart so much for these kids. I love kids so much. I wanted to have 10 kids originally. And my husband's like, no, let's just settle for 2. It's a lot cheaper. So I just love kids and babies. And I think I literally have the best job in the whole world because not only do I get to help save their life in the water, but I get to help lay fundamental roots of confidence in these kids. And that's something that I absolutely love about my job is the fact that I get to change their mentality from scared of the water, from fearful of lots of things, to in just 9 days to be brave and strong and help them conquer a huge fear that most kids struggle with, like putting their face in the water. 99% of our students learn to swim in just 9 days. So that's kind of what makes us really unique than every other swim school out there.
I'm not super plugged into the swimming culture. How long does it typically take a regular school to have a kid learning how to swim?
So typically traditional swim schools, kids go month after month, year after year. And I have so many parents that tell me my kids have been at swim lessons for years and still can't swim. And that breaks my heart because that is a scam to me. It should not take kids months or years to learn to swim. That's why I have like the rip the Band-Aid off kind of swim program. Like, nope, we got to get this done now. Yeah. And we're not going to lollygag. We got to teach your kid to swim now. Like it's very important because every day that they cannot swim, it's dangerous. So that's why I'm so passionate about getting them to do it now. So that's why I'm a more intense coach. But like I said, I'm super fun, loving, positive, pumped up. And you have to have that beautiful blend of both in order for a child to trust you and do what you say.
And did this like, obviously your passion is overflowing, like I can hear it from the headphones, but did this passion and conviction come throughout the last few years coaching, or is this something you started with and you just went head first?
That is a great question.
No pun intended.
Actually, it's a great question. Like not too many people have ever asked me that. So I would say this is the raw version. God literally like jolted me back into this profession about 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago. I was like, I'm done coaching. I'm over it. Like, I want to be, I want to dress up. I'm tired of just wearing a swimsuit and like sunblock all day. I want to dress up and go to work and be a businesswoman. But having 2 young kids, like that was a struggle. I've always been a stay-at-home mom. And so by me coaching the summer was a way for me to make a little bit extra money to help my family. But I actually went on a few interviews. And as I was driving to these interviews, I got in 3 car wrecks in one day. And my husband calls me ping pong because I like to ping pong into cars. Especially that one day. So yeah,
you're
when
an Olympic
I got
ping pong player that day for sure.
Yeah, and it was a brand new car. Like literally had like 120 miles on it. Yeah, it was really, really depressing day. But what God made me realize that day that I was doing all those things, He literally changed my heart when I got home. He like inspired me. I just had like a voice tell me like start a Facebook page and get people to leave reviews for you. So I created a Facebook page and I asked like 20 people, 30 people to leave me a review of their experience, just previous students over the years. And overnight I had 25-star reviews with paragraphs from every parent saying how much this was my gift. This was my calling. This is what I meant to do. This is what I was created for. And I was just sobbing reading all this because I had no clue people felt that way about me and how much of an impact I actually made on their child because they're like, okay, bye, day 9, bye. And that's it. Right. So my love language is words of affirmation. Nice. So when I read all those things, like God changed my heart in an instant where I wanted to be a professional businesswoman to now I want to just coach. And that's all I want to do. So my heart was completely changed in that moment for my 3 car wrecks. Because I think God was literally saying, no, you're not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah. God said, we got to get this woman off the road and in the pool. That's what we need to do.
It's kind of like Jonah, right? He didn't want to go to Nineveh, and he got swallowed by a whale. And so I'm like, it took 3 days. I was like, 3 car wrecks, right? 3 days. Yeah. And so he literally just revamped a passion for coaching with me. And what changed my business in every way, I would say, is 5 years ago, I hired my first assistant. And when I hired my first assistant, it changed everything because I was able to help twice as many kids. So that was a huge changing point in my business was hiring someone to help me.
Yeah.
That's a long answer.
No, that's great. That's exactly what we're looking for. This is a super like genuine, like in the moment kind of podcast, right? Like we liked whenever people like share their hearts, share their stories, share their passion. And that's what we're meant to do. Like, we're not here to tell people like, oh, this is what you should do. This is this is like, no, this is real. This is what we're doing right here and right now. And basically answered our second question. It's like, what was really that driving factor to have you open a business versus getting a job? And so like, can you go into a little bit more about like where that shift, when it did happen, like what was that experience like being like, oh, now I have this coaching job during the summer. And it's like, no, now I'm like all in and like, we're getting this. And like, how did you go about starting your business once you were marked like that? We talked a little bit last week about being marked like by God and like for a passion and a mission and a purpose. And so like, once that happens, like, what are you doing next, like to fulfill that vision?
That's a good question. So I've had this vision forever. Like I remember 6 years ago, I was coaching people. I'm like, my goal is to have a swim school that's Candyland themed. This is before my books, because my swim program that I've created took me about 12 years to create my program. And I made up everything. God inspired all these silly things like cotton candy donuts, ice cream, mermaids, sharks, waffles and syrup. All of this is terminology that we use in the pool that helps kids learn to swim quickly. So if I just said, okay, reach your hand to the sky, how boring is that? Right?
Very boring.
Right. It's boring and kids aren't going to remember it. So if I say, let's feed our dolphin-shaped hands and let's feed them all the cotton candy clouds in the sky and they go like this, nom, nom, and they eat the cotton candy clouds, guess what? These kids remember it. And they want to do it. And then if they don't
That's
do
awesome.
it, I go like this. You are making your dolphin so sad because you're not feeding them any cotton candy. And then they're like, I want to make my dolphins happy. I'm like, okay, then you've got to feed them cotton candy. And so by sharing it in a fun story with them helps them to grasp it. And that is what inspired my books, is the way I teach. I had to put it in a book form.
That's
so it's
so
fun
cool.
for them to read at home too.
Yeah. Was it feeding the dolphin? Was that like day one cueing for the children?
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah,
okay.
It's day one. Yeah.
And so did it take you a little bit to kind of get over yourself? And the reason I ask is just because I feel like as chiropractors at times we can try to do super sciencey or like really go like all the way in with our patients. And then you look
that
back
just
and
goes
you're
over
like,
their head. That goes over
exactly.
their head. They want to be relatable. They want to understand what you're saying. And that's what I have to do. I had to create a language into what kids understand. And I actually train adults too. And I teach them the same exact way. And I say, I know this sounds silly and I'm not belittling you in any way, but I'm going to teach you like I teach a child, because if they understand this, you will too. And you're not going to forget this either. And so many adults are like, I love your book because I don't forget any of the terminologies that you say. Everybody loves donuts, and we use donuts to help kids learn to float the right way. But something that really changed my business was hiring people and training them to become like me, like training replicas of myself. So 5 years ago, I hired my first one. That same summer, I hired my second one. And then within 5 years to date, we have 20 people working for us this March.
Yeah, crazy.
Dang.
Yeah.
So what does the structure of your business look like currently with those 20 employees?
So last summer we had 12. I had 12 girls that were absolutely amazing coaches, and I can train a teenage girl to do my job within 3 to 5 days. The key is they have to have my personality. Like they have to be outgoing, upbeat. If you're really quiet and shy, then kids aren't going to hear you and do what you say, right? So if you're super fun and pumped up, they want to be fun, pumped up with you, right? So that's what I have to hire for. That's what I've learned, is that I don't hire coaches based on their skill level necessarily. It's strictly personality, and I can teach them to be a great coach within just a few days. So once I was able and I learned I could replicate myself, I knew I could make this huge. And so 4 years ago, I made 6 figures in a summer. And I was just blown away. I was like, I never thought I could do this. Right. And so then once I was able to do that in just 3 months, make 6 figures, I was like, okay, well then what can I do next summer? How can I make more? What can I do more? Right. And so then last summer, we had 3 locations. We had 3 pools going at once, with my whole team all working at the same time. And so once I showed my husband I can do these things, he's like, okay, we need to build you a swim school. So part of our backstory that's really emotional and hard for me is that we moved to Lantana and I was kicked out of my backyard from the HOA because of traffic flow and sound. So kids crying, right? Yeah. So I was kicked out. So then we moved to another neighborhood and then we had an agreement with the HOA. And I'm like, hey, this is why I just got kicked out. I don't want this to happen again. And they're like, oh no, you're fine. You're safe here. We'll write contracts. We did all that fun stuff. Right. And 2 years later, the same, complaints from same neighbors for the same thing. And they kicked me back out of my backyard again. So after being kicked out of my backyard twice. I'm over the drama, and we just bought 2 acres this summer in Argyle, which costs more than our house. So, super fun. And we are now building our indoor swim school, and I will be able to help kids year round now, not just 6 months out of the year. So I'm really super excited and pumped about
It's
that.
going to be so awesome.
That's really cool. That was literally going to be my next question, because I kept saying, like, in the summer, why are you not teaching kids, all year round?
Yeah, and that's why, because I've always been an outdoor swim school. We've had a heated pool, so I technically coach from like March to September, and then after that I close shop. So now that we'll have an indoor swim school, we'll be year round.
That's awesome. If I could snap, I'd give you a bunch of snaps, and I'm not going to clap over the mic, but
No, but that's so cool. Like, to hear your passion, hear your story, and something we've talked about too is like, you're always the most equipped, like, to serve the person who you used to be. And so having like a background where there is danger, right, or there is like a feeling of like uncertainty, like in the safety, right, in your acceptance, right, that's why like your swim school like has all these elements, and like in the core values, like you can hear like passionate and safety and trust and all of those things. And so it's really like your life experience has molded your business, and your business is just like a reflection of you. It's the extension of that life. And so what do you feel like is like the long-term vision, like in 20 years, like where do you think that you're at?
Dude, I've got it all. I have all the goals, all the plans. In 2 years, we're going to franchise.
Wow.
Something that we didn't even talk about. I'm actually patented. Yes, I spent $25,000 on a patent, right? And I was actually... No, I'm going to tell you. So I was actually the top 5% of people to get approved for the patent first try, which is huge, which means I actually saved money. Yeah. So my patent actually is a training tool for every kid and teenagers and adults. And it goes on their legs, and it goes from mid quad to mid calf, and it prevents them from bending and opening, because the biggest problem in swimming is not having proper kicks, and your kicks is your motor. If your motor is wrong, then your swimming is going to be wrong, and it's going to be off and slow. So this device, for girls, it looks like a mermaid, and for boys, it looks like a shark mouth, and it helps them to not bend or open, which means they have perfect kicks. They have to move their fast toes. And so that's something that makes us unique too, is that I have my patented tool that's absolutely amazing, and that's what transforms those kids to swim so quickly as well, because it helps them train proper muscle memory. So in day 9, when I take it off, most of our kids have those perfect kicks in 9 days. So having my 2 books, and my 2 books are, they help 2 to 4 year olds, and then they help 5 and up. So I have 2 different versions for different age ranges. And then I have my tool, and I have my program. So all those things combined is what equals amazing success. So that's why I know this is definitely franchisable. So that's my 2-year goal. And then like my 10, 20-year goal is eventually just not even really necessarily coach anymore. I just want to be like the head trainer, where I'm just training everyone to do my job and just watching everybody and visiting each location that we have, and making sure the franchise, everything is going well. And then I love public speaking, and I love being like a motivational speaker, and I love teaching.
For sure.
Thank you. And I love teaching like drowning prevention and water safety. And so I've actually spoken at a few, the NDPA, the National Drowning Prevention Alliance. This past spring, I spoke there about, from a coach's perspective, on drowning prevention and water safety that a lot of people don't even know, because there's not a lot of coaches that do this. So that's something that I would love to do, like in my retirement. My husband's a pilot, and I want him to fly me all over the place while I just go and speak on these really important things and just pump people up and change and help people to rewire their mentality.
So cool.
That's something that I want to do.
Very basic question, but if you were to have like your dream location where you're like, I can go visit the school, but also go on vacation, or where do you think that'd be? 2
places. I want to live in Colorado. It's my favorite place ever. I like the mountains because I live in the water and the sun, right? So I love escaping to the mountains where it's cooler weather and less sun. And then I will have a location in Colorado one day, and I do believe in speaking life constantly. So I say, I will do this. I'm going to do this. It's going to happen, because it will. So I will have a location in Colorado, and then I would love to have a swim location like on an island, like in the Caribbean. The reason why is islanders don't swim, sadly. Like there's not a lot of swim schools on islands. And so those people are usually really fearful of the water. And so I would love to have like a vacation home in the islands and the vacation home in the, mountains, and just travel all over the place back and forth, because people in the north don't swim as much either because it's cold, right? And then people in the islands are scared of the water. So I want to be able to help places and people in all diverse places.
I grew up in Connecticut. I was originally born in California. So my mom was a really good swimmer, and she had probably a similar mindset to you. I think we just went to a YMCA when I was 4, and she grabbed me and threw me in and said, figure it out. And I somehow did. But
that's good. But you probably didn't learn proper technique and stroke either.
But no, dolphins were not eating those kind of
I bet they weren't.
They were not. But then I was on the swim team in 6th grade, so I think I learned proper form then.
Well, then you did. That's what I encourage people. I'm like, if you want your child to be an excellent swimmer, swim team is the way to go.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
But I know growing up in the north, not a lot of people know how to swim, so that would be huge. Because driving around here, I see swim schools all over the place. Right. Like Aqua Tots or those types of places, and I'm like, these just don't exist up north, or at least I don't know about them. Right. So that'd be awesome. Yeah.
So that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up on like the Louisiana Gulf Coast, and like we don't have swim schools. I think most people are born in the water, honestly, over there. Like I swam to school more than I did walk. And
dude, that's awesome.
They see an alligator. They see an alligator.
And they're like, I'm not swimming in the bayou. No way.
Yeah. We have motivation to swim. It's swimmer.
Survival.
Yeah. But like we don't have swim schools either, and that's like such a big thing. But also I feel like a big thing that a lot of people don't have either is like a big vision, like your vision is massive. Yeah. Like you have a worldwide vision. Yeah. And you have like a multiple locations impacting not just thousands or hundreds, but millions of people. So did your vision like always start like this big, or like how did that develop over time?
I think just seeing my swim school just grow organically, just locally, I'm just like, wow, I should have bigger goals than just own one swim school. Like I can do more than just one. So I think just like a year and a half, 2 years ago, recently, I was like, no, I want to franchise this. Now that I have my patent, my books, all the things, and have all these tools and my program, like we have it all like written out. And I'm like, now that I have an actual, like, here's a package where I could give someone and they can actually buy from me, then anybody can train kids to swim. One of my favorite quotes is from one of my 16-year-old coaches. She's like, Danielle, if we just say and do everything you say and do, all of our students learn to swim. And I was like, boom, that's right.
It's a good little boost right there. You're like,
right. I was like, that is the best compliment you could ever give me, because like literally, and like a lot of my coaches play soccer and track, and they are not swimmers. So they do not have to be on swim team or be great swimmers to be a great coach. That's what I tell my
that's awesome.
Coaches.
That's quite the reputable or repeatable process that you have, and that's like
right. It's easily duplicable, right?
Yeah, and that's something I know Spencer and I talk a lot about off air. Is just like how can we create these things, these processes, these systems to go seamlessly. That's awesome. A question I did have is in regards to mom of 2 kids. Your husband's a pilot, so I would imagine he's not home 7 days a week. Maybe he is. False. Okay.
Yeah. So I actually brought him home because I do very well financially for myself. I actually got him to quit the airlines.
Look at you go.
And he now works for me.
Yeah.
He's actually going to like law school. So he's like my lawyer, which is great to have a lawyer on my side. Yeah. Right. And he flies our family around. And he also is a broker. He buys and sells jets and planes for people. And he does adjusting with drones. So he's a very diverse person and does multiple jobs. But he does no longer travels for work, which is a blessing.
Yeah. Okay. So that leads to even more of my question is you two are both super busy.
Yeah.
How do you, in moments where you're like, and I don't know if you have because your passion and conviction is so high, but maybe early on those first few years when things were like, you're just grinding and hustling and doing everything, like where did you find that energy and that will to continue going? Even if you exploded from the jump, but like, were there times where it was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I can keep going.
Yeah. This summer was my hardest summer I've ever done because we were supposed to have a swim school last spring. So we booked up like we were going to have a swim school last spring. And our landlord stole $25,000 from us and gave our spot to the larger tenant next door. So we were hosed out of not having a swim facility. And I was freaking out because we booked 460 people that I had to coach and I had no location. So I had to reach out to a whole bunch of people, and I basically rented people's backyard pools from them. So I either exchanged it for free lessons for their child, or I paid them a fee to let me use their pool for a month. And we had 10 pools we used this spring and summer. So it was very stressful to find pools, and it was very stressful to all the customer service. I mean, I was doing everything. I was coaching 9 hours a day. 5 days a week. And then I would get home from coaching all day long and be on the computer for 6 to 7 hours, responding to everybody. And it was very stressful, and I cried a lot, and I thought I was having 1,000 mental breakdowns. So this summer was the hardest for me just because we doubled our business in 1 year. Wow. Last year we coached 230 kids. This year is 460. So I had to hire a lot more coaches and train them. And so I just wasn't ready for that type of, we did it. I didn't feel ready for that type of growth that quickly, but we did it. And guess what? All of those kids, 99% of our kids still learn to swim.
Here you are. Yeah.
In 9 days.
Yep.
Geez. For those of you guys listening, like whenever you do go into your business thing, when someone says like double your business, that's insane growth. Like sometimes people grow like 10, 13, 15%, and that's a huge year, but like to double like 100% growth, like is insane. Like to hear.
Yeah. And that's why already, my husband works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. and I'm assuming, did law school happen prior to the landlord thing, or is that since then? We've been,
it's been a rough last few years getting kicked out of house after house. And he's like, I'm over this. He's very type A and very analytical, and we're totally opposites in every way, which is, pros and cons. But he helps balance me out for sure. He just has a law mentality and a contract mentality. He's actually doing contract law, which I'm like, that sounds terrible, but he loves it. So he's getting his master's in law at Texas A&M. So that's something that he's doing on the side of all the other things. So, and we have 2 children, a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Wow.
So we're really bored all the time.
Yeah. So I'm curious, just in like raising a 9 and 13-year-old, have you seen an impact since you both have now been so driven and dedicated? Like, do they notice that, and how is that transformed inside the household?
It's a great question. So my 2 boys, we are training them to be entrepreneurs. So I've helped my boys start their own business. They make organic dog bones. So they both have their own dog, and they're obsessed with their dog. That's their best friend, and they're Basenjis. Okay. So they don't bark or shed. That's my type of dog. And they started making organic dog bones for them. And I was like, boys, let's do this for a business. And so in our neighborhood, we actually have like a market day every month. And so they make around, I think like 500 dog bones every time. And it's like hours, like we spend 4 hours baking. And I taught them how to bake them and make them themselves and package them. And they have their own logo, and their business name is Brothers Bones. Wow. And they make them together, and they sell them for 12 bones, $10 a pack. So they make like $400 like every time they sell their bones. And it just motivates them to be hard workers. Cause I'm like, Mama's not doing it. Cause if you want to get paid, you're doing it. Nice. So I am teaching them to have their own business. My son has also taken that further, and all of his birthday gift cards, he used that to buy like different things on Amazon and sell them at school. So like during the month of October, we bought like, discounted candy, and he would bring those candy bars and sell them for like $2 a piece, $3 a piece. And he was making a huge profit off it. I'm like, bro, yes. So I am teaching my kids to be hard workers, because all the generations now, sadly, are not. And I do not want my boys to be that way. And I want them to be their own boss, because it's the best, hardest job in the world. But I don't want them to rely on someone above them to give them a paycheck. I want them to find money themselves. So that's something that we are instilling in our children now.
You're like the Gary V to your children. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, but it's like the same. look his stuff up. I think you'll love
will.
it. He's big on helping now Gen Z, but millennials, like figuring out how to be entrepreneurs.
Love it.
He has great stuff, great content.
I will look him up.
You're like the female version of Gary Vee for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely killing it. Yeah. Okay. So I guess to kind of wrap up today, like, I know you're saying like you're coaching like your sons to be entrepreneurs and stuff, but so when they were coming up with this business and if you were even to look at your former startup self, like when you were so small, like when you're right out of the gates and you're like in the really scary, like, well, what now moment, like what is your biggest form of advice to you down, like from you down the road to your former self?
Okay, so it's really crazy to believe, but like at 29 years old, I had like very little confidence in myself. Everyone would like, I would never guess that about you. When I turned 30 was a huge defining point. I'm 35 now. So like the last 5 years, I've been definitely the most confident I've ever been. And if I could just go back to my younger self, I would say, believe in yourself. You can do anything that you set your mind to. And that's actually the quote in my book.
Oh yeah.
So the quote in my book that the first page, it says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford said that.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge thing for me, is that I never had confidence. And I remember my husband even telling me, I just wish you were confident. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And so by being an entrepreneur and growing my business, and I think just after turning 30, like I just started becoming way more confident and believing in myself and setting goals and achieving them. So I would just say, don't give up and don't even waste your time with being another businesswoman. I am a businesswoman, right? Like, why would I work for somebody else? Just be your own boss. And I would say, Danielle, hire people sooner. Because that's when I started making way more money, is when I started hiring people to help me.
I know. Yeah, we both talk about that so much. Zach just got his first employee, and I'm very much in need of one right now. And it's like, man, I just know you can feel it like on the cusp. Like you can feel like when your business is going to take off, and you can feel the momentum that's building up behind it.
That was huge.
I guess
hiring someone. Yeah.
I guess maybe one more question off of that. Did you notice a change in the kids you were teaching once you realized you needed confidence? Because I'm assuming with confidence comes the ability to swim. So was there a huge shift in your practice, if you will, once you made that shift in yourself?
That is perfect. I think the reason why my confidence changed so much is that I was preaching confidence every single day with these kids. I was saying, you can do it. You are brave and strong, right? Like those are things I'm saying to these kids. Yet I was reflecting on myself and I was like, I'm not even saying this to myself. Right. So when you're saying that all day long, it starts to change you mentally as well. So when you're positive and you're pumped up and you're speaking life to others, in return, it fills you up too. So I think because I'm super positive all day, that's what helps me to overflow that positive and confidence into myself. So I was being kind of hypocritical, right? I was preaching all this, yet I wasn't doing it. So once I started doing it, that's when I started to see change.
Yep. It's 1,000% spot on. And I know Spencer and I both can think back on moments where it's like, we've talked about health and fitness and wellness, and then we go and, get Hawaiian Bros or some type of like food that's not very good for you. And you're like, dang, I just talked to someone about their diet and now here I am.
Right.
So it's just,
practice what you preach, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Awesome.
For sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about where to find you and how to get connected with you so they can get more of this awesome content, like be exposed and also learn how to swim?
Thank you. Yeah, I actually have several social media platforms that have actually blown up the last couple months. I finally have an assistant. She does all my social media, which has been wonderful. So we have TikTok, and it's swimming.fishies.swim. And there's over 200 like teaching videos on there about our swimming program, how to help your child at home. Like I'm pretty much giving away all my secrets to swimming online because I want to help everybody. That's my heart, is to really help others all over the world, not just, like I said, my zip code. My Instagram is swimming.fishies. And then my Facebook page is Swimming Fishies Swim School. And all those, you can reach me on there, or my website is myswimadventure.com.
Nice. That's good stuff. I'm going to go follow. I was going to open up TikTok, and then I was like, nope, I don't want there to be a video that starts screaming into the microphone. So I'll follow you as soon as we're done recording.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on with us. This was really awesome. Thank you for being genuine and vulnerable with us. That's something we really value here on our show. if you're listening and you like this, just leave us a review, share it with someone who you feel like needs to hear it. And you can follow myself at SpencerDupre.dc on the socials. And you can follow Zach. Zach, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at
guys.
Dr. Zach Thompson on Instagram and Facebook, as well as Within Chiropractic. But Danielle, this was, I mean, just like so good. Like if you're listening and you don't know how to swim, I would definitely look to find Danielle. I know how to swim and I still want to take a lesson. And that's
I could do it.
I think for me, my biggest takeaway from this is just how much passion can overflow into an environment. And trying to bring that into the workspace is just so needed. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing your gift. You're amazing just from the podcast. And so look forward to more conversations and seeing you blow up. And I can't wait to see the franchise take off.
Dude, thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for having me. Something else I want to say is that we also coach kids with special needs of all kinds, which is amazing.
Nice.
And we will be having like speech and splash, which is a speech pathologist and swim coach comes in and actually helps with
Genius.
both at our swim school, right?
That's
And
good.
we're also partnering with a physical therapist as well. So we'll offer water therapy too.
All right. And we'll also
Surreal.
be working with chiropractic and helping
Yes.
kids with the infection.
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And thank you for listening to the What Now podcast. We'll see you next time.